Hey again.
What's up? I'm back again.
I like it when you come in.
Do you?
It's entertaining. I feel like we're just kind of out on our porch having coffee and talking about stuff.
Yeah, I guess people like to listen to, our coffee talk, so.
Yeah. Well, usually when we're over coffee, we're talking about the state of the world and the state of business and all that, but it's almost what?
We do it's the first thing in the morning, right? So get up early and you're making coffee and you sit down and that's our time.
Now, I need a half an hour before you come out.
You do. That's true. I come out very joyous. A lot of times
singing hymns.
I'm singing hymns or just being funny because I wake up on the good side. I'm happy when I wake up. You're happy, but you're just...
I'm happiest alone.
You're not you're not ready to be happy with Dan.
No, or anybody for that matter.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny because, we're just, wrapping up holidays, and I know I always get this anxiousness when we have a lot of people at the house for the holidays. I'm like, God, I'm going to have to get up extra early so I can go get my coffee and sneak off to a quiet part of the house before anybody wants to talk to me, because I don't want them to think I'm rude. I don't have words after that first cup of coffee. So anyway, so after my half hour, and then, I get the brain cranking, and then I have a little quiet time, and then, then here you come to entertain me with all your regalia, and it's very entertaining. So
it is funny to watch the look on your face. I can tell, kind of where you are in the wake up stage by, the second chorus.
Yeah, that's true. If you've come out too early,
exactly,
you can kind of tell. But it's coming up on that time of year, and this time of year is kind of fun for me because, we started this tradition of creating vision boards many, many years ago. We've kind of worked off the same vision board for a couple of years, but I keep adding little things. Vision boards are amazing.
Yeah. I thought you were crazy when you first said, let's do a vision board. I was
know.
Like, I don't think I need a vision board. But
it's so intentional.
I like it. I mean, I think we started it, I think the first one we did was 2010.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
And we've done almost one every single year.
Well, that was a kind of a New Year's tradition when a lot of our kids lived at home. I'd get all these magazines and we'd all create vision boards together, and mostly it was the girls, and we're like, okay, what do you want for this year? I'll put your vision on our vision board.
Some people are sitting there going, what do you put on your vision board? Whatever you want.
Yep.
Like whatever you want to attain for that year, you want to do. You want to go on a vacation to Europe.
Yep.
Put a picture of a castle in Greece that you want to see or whatever. Yeah. And again, I thought it was kind of strange when you asked to do that, but every year that we've done it, and what's even more fun. So then what we did is put it up in the closet where we have to see it all the time. You walk past it. But what's really fun is when you take that vision board down at the end of the year and you go check.
It's amazing.
Check,
it's a power of intention,
right?
It is. And it's a great lead into I want to talk more about vision boards because I think that's a pretty fun concept. But this time of year is the time of year everybody's making all these resolutions. Mm-hmm. Usually they're physical, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's, maybe career oriented or some sort of personal goal that maybe isn't a physical goal. But, what happens all the time? We get at about January 20. No, it's probably really about January 18th, right? Because if you can get 21 days, if you can get 21 days, that's 21 days to have it, right? But it starts to fizzle out. And it's, we talk about this all the time. And that's happened to me too, I'm sure you. How many times we're going to do, we're not going to have any, libations or spirits for the first 20 days.
Now careful.
We get maybe 5 days in.
Don't get overzealous.
Don't get crazy.
Don't get crazy on me.
I'm going to fast from coffee. Anyway, why can we not stick to those resolutions, you think?
I think it's how you set it up from the very beginning. I think people kind of set themselves up to fail. They don't do those resolutions correctly.
Maybe it's not a realistic goal.
Well, the first mistake I think I see people make, and I've made it myself, is not having a clear intention of the why. Why am I doing this resolution, right? So, the classic, I want to lose 15 pounds, or I want to lose 50 pounds, or I want to lose whatever it is. Why? What is the why behind your wanting to do that? And then if you can get that, number one, out in front of you and stay focused on that, that's half the battle. Mm-hmm. Secondly, and you hear this all the time about New Year's resolutions, you have them, but you don't write them down. It's writing them down is second important, but the thing that's more important, it's the concept of training is important, but retraining is more important, is when you write something down to go back and review that. It's almost like a checklist. I did it. Yes, I did it. And you have to do that on a daily basis. So, those are simple things that I think are, number one, understand your why, get a process around whatever it is that you're wanting to do. And then also, and this is a hard one, but get an accountability partner.
That's what I was going to say.
Get somebody that's like, your wife, your spouse, your friend, your buddy, your kids, whatever, and go sit down with them and have an intentional conversation and say, look, I am going to do this. I want to do this. Here's the reason why I want to do this. And here's how I would like you to help me stay accountable to this. And then ask them the question, are you good with this?
Yeah.
Can you do this?
Can you
because
help me be
they may be like, oh my gosh, no. I
but
don't
a lot
really
of times
want
it actually motivates the other person. I'm
Absolutely.
going to join you in that.
That's right.
That sounds like
That's
a
right.
great
And that's
thing.
why it's great to do with a husband and wife.
Yeah.
And in
well, I don't know if that's true.
You don't think so?
No, because we don't like to tell each other what to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. If I was like, hey, babe, you said you weren't going to have ice cream at night anymore, you'd be like, don't tell me what to do.
I would never say that.
It's a classic Danism.
Yeah, okay, so let's scratch that one off the list. Well, I tell you what, though, it's different couples. Like some couples would be like, yeah, they absolutely could do that. But that's another thing to realize.
Yeah.
Who's a good accountability partner for you?
That's right.
Maybe it's not your spouse. Maybe, and maybe you process through it just like we did. Like, hey, let's do this together. And then like, let's rethink that. Who could be a better accountability partner?
I mean, it's good to have your spouse know so they can cheer you on and encourage you and stuff and not try to trip you up and that kind of thing. But I don't know, accountability partner, I don't know. But the other thing too that I think people, kind of when we start to make these resolutions, oftentimes they're short-term focused goals like, I'm going on vacation in March and I want to look good in my bathing suit, kind of thing. Well, then what happens after that vacation? Do you just go back to where you were? So you have to start the cycle all over again. So maybe, are these temporary things or are they more permanent?
It's not an either or, it's an and, right? It's an either and. So we have a situation where we're going to go on a vacation. I want to lose this amount because I want to look good in my bathing suit. That's my short-term goal. Okay, let's get there. But then let's also at the same time make a long-term, let's extend out that goal a little bit longer. And, that way you see people before they go on vacation and they look great. And they come back from their vacation, they're like, wow.
It's amazing how long it takes to get into shape, how quickly we can derail.
Did you were you just on a vacation at the lunch line? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
all you can eat buffet.
Another thing too that is interesting, in talking to different people about, what do you think your New Year's resolution? I've heard more and more people talking about a different type of resolution to be more intentional with family. I'm going to, not have my phone with me at meal times, or I'm going to spend the first 30 minutes of my day not getting on an electronic. Like there's other resolutions we can do that it's more about, I think, taking an assessment of your life, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your higher power, your relationship with each other, and which one of these areas, because I promise you they all do, I'm speaking to the mirror, as you like to say, which one of these things could I be better at? And what is one thing I could do to improve that, right? And I think sometimes thinking around relational health and not just physical health as far as a resolution goes is so powerful. A lot of times we go to comfort foods because we're stressed, and a lot of times the stress is because some sort of thing we're not providing for ourselves, like rest or exercise, or peel back that onion layer. You said it in the beginning, like what's the why behind it, and I think being creative with some of these resolutions and looking, like pulling it a little bit beyond just self and what I see, but what's going on inside my
Well,
heart and
and
mind.
I think it's really also people should focus on. So let's get the what or why are we going to do this, but then you got to focus on the process. You have to focus on, you hear
Step
that term
one,
a lot,
step two.
muscle memory, right? So you go through the process of whatever it is that your goal is, but get in your mind. And a lot of times that means that when you get in your mind, you have to write it down. You have to check back on yourself, just like I was just saying, but get the process down and focus on the process, right? Don't focus on necessarily the end result. I say this in business all the time. People focus on their profit. They want them to have their business. They want to be I have businesses. I want to be profitable. I want to be extremely successful. That's great. But if I'm just focused on the end, if I'm just focused on profit, on how much money did I make, I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah, you're missing
and so many people do that. Like they focus on the end result. I always tell our people, focus on the process. Because profit is the result of a great process. It's a great people working together with products, working together with process equals profit. So same thing when you're setting yourself up for setting goals and this time of year where you want to make a change, add the process of I'm doing this. To your point, I'm doing better with my relationship with God. I'm going to set aside a time for quiet time. And I hear that all the time also in the church, quiet time. I had my quiet time this. There's a lot of different ways that you can, have your quiet time, whether it's meditation, whether it's, listening to praise and worship music, whether, whatever it is, but be intentional in that process. Like I am going to, and I say this a lot, I think we as Americans have, and don't mishear me, those of you that are athletes, because I look at athletes and I'm like, my gosh, you're some of the most disciplined people in the world. Fantastic. And you see the results, right? They're an expert, they're a professional in their craft. But we don't have any discipline in the majority of Americans. We have very little true discipline, true grit. The John Waynes of the world, where it's just, hey, sometimes you just gotta knuckle down and you've got to do.
It's definitely less than it was at one time, for sure.
We're not as, I hate to say, we're just not. We're a little wimpier as a society.
Well, everything's easier, right? Everything's gotten convenient. We don't have to really work super hard.
So and so let's say that's true. Let's all acknowledge. Yep, that's a true statement. We didn't have the internet downloading things like it is now 25 years ago. So let's acknowledge that. Yeah. Okay, so what are we going to do about it differently? Take out the fact that it is. Just say, okay, step back from it and say, all right, what are we going to do now that is going to change what the situation is that we're in?
Yeah, and also another thing that was coming up for me just now is like when we're like talking about resolutions and what can we do? How can we make the world better? Right. So a lot of times we're just kind of focused on ourselves or our little world. But, one of the things that I think about a lot is how often we don't even look and engage with the person that is servicing us, whether it's a checker, checking out at the grocery store or, the gas pump or
waiter,
a
waitress,
restaurant or whatever. And how can we really stop and really engage with another human? Because that lifts up another person, but it also lifts us up. So that's another resolution we can make, because
So I was just reading an article the other day about depression with people, and just
so it's rampant.
People, it's everywhere, and people right now
Anxiety
maybe listening
too.
to this at the holiday times where depression, suicide rates get the highest. All these horrible statistics. You're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're saying, what is my intention with what I'm doing? Right? So the mindset around having intention and having a drive to whatever you're trying to actually accomplish.
And 21 days to have it. So if I want to, focus on engaging, and I'm the worst at that because it surprises a lot of people, but I'm horribly introverted. I would rather be alone with a book and quiet probably than, in a group of people engaging and being social. So that's a big one for me is engaging more with people. It can be uncomfortable with strangers stores and, talking to strangers and, but being intentional in that, how can I, make the world a better place? Another, I'm trying to come up with and think through this, what other types of resolutions. I want people to kind of step back and think out of.
I didn't finish my thought on depression. That's
okay, I know. You were trailing, and I was just like, well, he needs some help here. What are we doing?
I do. I needed to have a coffee or something. But so the depression piece, I'm glad you brought me back to that.
Yes.
Totally
I
lost
did it on purpose.
Totally lost my train of thought. Maybe need pellets.
You just got them yesterday. They
hadn't
had time to kick in.
That's true. But depression is, diagnosed this time of year. You have all these, issues. And the one thing that they keep coming back to is a depressed person that goes out and begins to do acts of service. And they begin to give back
Serve
to
others.
other people.
Yep.
Their depression it lifts.
Often,
it's better than any, SSRI or, Prozac medication, anything like that.
That's
and
true.
so when you maybe at this time of year, you might be dealing with that and you just go, man, let me figure out how I can do something. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to go out and join the Salvation Army or, some big, Peace Corps or something like that. It can be something that's very simple, to your point, of engaging with another person. That's where I was with the intentionality of, hey, I want to speak life into you. I'm going to speak a word of encouragement into you. And as a Christian, I should be willing to do that because what I'm doing is reflecting Christ. I'm a Christian that says, I want to give to you. Right. I am interested in you. I am interested in your well-being. I'm interested in you doing better in your life. And so we do that. And by doing that, depression, and again, they've done lots of studies on this, begins to lift just at an incredible rate.
You talk about intentionality, and it's kind of funny what I was thinking about. So I know you remember a woman that used to work with us that was German, and she told a story, and I think about this all the time now. So if somebody out there is going to be intentional with engaging with other people, really be intentional, because I remember she used to say, when I came to the States, I thought everybody was so nice because they would always say, hey, how are you? Hi, how are you? How are you doing today? And then when I'd start to tell them how I was, they'd walk off. And then she said, I finally realized they really didn't care how I was doing. It was like a part of a salutation.
Yeah.
And so she goes, in our country, we don't ask people how they are unless we really want to know how
because they'll be honest with them back.
They'll be honest.
You want to hear? I'm really actually not doing so well.
But every time I say that to somebody, like, hey, how are you today? I find myself thinking, I can hear her German accented voice in my head, and going, wow, I should stop and really wait. And it's like, no, really, how are you? No, I really want to know. But
we're great liars. We always say the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm great.
I'm great.
Fine.
Yeah, I know.
Well.
What if somebody, so maybe that'll be my resolution. Next time somebody asks me how I am, I'm going to really tell them how I am.
No, but maybe you do it this way. You go, when you ask somebody how they're doing and they're like, dude, doing great. And just say,
really? Are you?
Are you? Yes, I am. Do I not seem well? You might open a can of worms there. But guess there's lots of people that do want to talk to somebody. They do want to have that connection, and
especially
it really
like you said, this time of year, and wrapping things up in the new year. So, what else can we talk about with resolution? So we've talked about being very intentional, mapping out a plan if it's a big goal. Let's say I want to be a part of a marathon. Well, how am I going to train for that?
And also the other thing to switch business, just kind of or mindset into business.
Yeah,
it has kind of come into my mind because there's a lot of people that we're talking about physical and we're talking about emotional but you should have business goals. I mean, I'm a business guy.
Goals.
Professional goals, we'll call it that. Where you said, I want to be and do this, and that goes back to the muscle memory that I was talking about. I have a goal. I've identified the goal. I know why I want that.
Yeah.
Here's the process that I'm going to use. Here's the accountability person that I'm going to use, and we could go forward with that.
That's so good.
But it's the think of other places in your life
Right.
that you can do it, rather than we just keep getting stuck on talking about the, I guess it's because it's the time of the year, the losing weight, the going to the gym, the eating
Well, those
better,
are the
all
typical
those
ones, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I'm trying to get people to kind of think out of the box. But you said something that reminded me, it's so important that so many people, and that, I'm reminded of a young man that we know is very, close in our life, that has these goals that he wants to be all the way over there, but he doesn't want to go through the process of getting there. And that's such a human nature thing, right? Like, we want to get over there to where we've accomplished that thing, but part of what the growth is going through the process to get there, right? And that's part of why we have to kind of go through tough things, and we have to create, go through the changes and the discipline and all of that, because that's really where the change, the glory isn't being there, it's actually getting through there.
One of the people that works with us always says, they people want to talk about your glory, but they don't know your story.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the whole, there's the beauty in the process. It's the life is a journey, not a destination.
Yep.
Aerosmith, I think, saying that. But it's true, and I'll throw this in there just to, personalize it a little bit. When we first started our business entity, we had a business partner that we just really had a bad breakup, and it turned into a lot of litigation. And it was 7 years of litigation.
Yeah.
It was constant. It wasn't just one lawsuit. It was several different lawsuits. And, when we were going through that, and it was very difficult for us financially. It was very difficult for us for our relationship. It was difficult for our kids. Kids are in college, and we're trying to figure out, are you going to go to college next semester? Because we don't know if we can actually afford to send you. And that whole process really, when we look back on it now, guess what? We are in a battle with the FDA. We are in battle with big pharma. We are in battle, and unfortunately, even as we sit here today, in litigation with the FDA, fighting for people's rights to have access to medicine and to compounds that we know are helpful to them. And we're one of the champions in that. Well, when we look back on that, I would not be able to be, confident in what we're doing in the litigation that we are, had we not gone through that preparation. Right. So, we want to hurry to the end. We want to hurry to the result. We want to hurry to getting to there. But let's pay attention more to the process in getting there, because you learn so much more. And I will tell you guys this, and I never would have thought I would say this, because when we went through that, it was, and I'm not exaggerating this, it was hell.
Yep.
And there's couples out there, there's families out there that maybe know what I'm talking about, or maybe it's not litigation, but you are going through a situation that where you go, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. But when you get to the other side, and you will get to the other side,
right.
You will get there. This too shall end.
Pass, yep.
This too shall pass. You'll look back on it and you go, man, I learned so much in that. There was so much, and it prepared me. It matured me. It allowed me to get to the mindset of being able to take on the next challenge, the next conquest, and not only take it on, but I have the now confidently taking it on, knowing that you're going to be victorious on the other side of it.
Right. And that's choice, right? We get to choose how we respond in situations. And I think that it's a testament to faith too.
Absolutely.
And there was faith wavered a lot in those 7 years.
The stuff that, you used to say to me in that coffee time at the beginning of the day, you would get so mad at me. I probably swore under my breath quite a few times because it was just like, you don't want to hear that, but lovingly you would, just drip it into the conversation. But it's a lot of times hard to hear that kind of stuff when you're going through such a pressure situation.
Well, just knowing, like, I knew then, as much as I'm sitting here now, that there was a reason we were having, and I even said it. I know I said it at least on one occasion. This is preparing us for something bigger. Yeah. And you were like, I don't care. I don't want to do it. And isn't it that way when we set a goal And when we are, and I think this is, really wrapping up to be an interesting conversation about how we start every year with these New Year's resolutions. But what if that can just be a way of life and not just happen in January and be over by January 18th, or be over by the vacation, or be, over when we're bored with it and we've moved on to the next shiny object, and really appreciating that whatever goal we set, no matter how small or how big, the beauty is in the process of getting there and not just the arrival at the destination.
And then building on it, right?
Yeah,
people think about, okay, I get here, but I always challenge our people in our business all the time. Okay, here's the end of the project, but it's like when you write a book.
Yeah.
You don't write one book. You write...
Already have V2 going.
Right. You write 2 books, because this one's the first one that's done, but that leads you to the second one.
Right.
That one, while that's working, you're working on another one. So it's the same concept. And so when people are setting the goals and they sometimes get off track and they get, step back from it, re-engage, understand the process, repeat the process, have that accountability partner, continuing on, and it bleeds over into other areas of your life, right? So do it for the physical, then I do it with business, I do it with my relationship, I do it with my relationship with God. I mean, it just builds on itself. So just a good concept of life.
I like it.
All right. Well, good.
I think we're good.
All right. What
are you gonna, have you thought about what you're gonna resolute to? I'm not going to hold you to it.
Jeez, are we recording this for real? I'm kidding. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to throw anything out there just because I really like to think through stuff like that. Mine would, I think, be around building deeper relationships.
Same. That's what I was thinking.
Because we have a lot of people in our lives, and it's like we have a lot of like these, I don't want to say shallow relationships, because we do have some deep relationships with friends.
They probably have shallower roots because we don't nurture them probably.
Yeah, so being more intentional and really, finding the people that you go, you know what, I'm doing life with this person. And I think it starts probably with us, with us being intentional as a couple, and then being able to
and as parents and grandparents too.
Oh yeah, grandkids.
It's so easy when we're, when you have a busy life to have very superficial engagements with family and just checking boxes. Okay, I called my mom. Check.
We had Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, check. Right. But yeah, no, I love that. That's kind of what I was feeling. About is just.
Well, good. Then we're on the same page.
It's easy.
All right.
But I won't hold you accountable.
Well, yes, you can't do that.
Okay. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.